Somebody said once that music only happens when two minds meet. So that means if you're just playing by yourself, are you functioning as both of those minds? Are you functioning as the listener and the player, or are you purely playing to eventually share that with someone else? I think that's a very interesting way of looking at music, is the connection of two or more minds, thinking about things and feeling certain things as the frequencies and the rhythms sort of flow over the individuals. Hello, thank you very much for having me. My name is AmaFranx. I'm also known as Franco Schoeman, the bass guitarist for ISO or Isochronous, depends on which albums you listen to. I've also done a whole host of session work, including the Zaka's latest album, which was released last year in 2018. And I've also done work in various studios, extensive collaborations in the jazz spheres. So thank you for having me. Yeah, this is wonderful. When I started as a child, I was a classical nut. I really loved Vivaldi, Chopin, some Liszt, of course Beethoven and Mozart, and I think it was all sort of built on that foundation. Then I moved into the jazz discipline, and today I think that jazz pedigree sometimes peeks its head through, even though I might not want it to. I think my influences as a foundation comes from the classical and the jazz sphere. I know that's very vague. Otherwise, I am a prog rock musician. I love to play progressive music in general, but my lineage has lent me towards playing some progressive rock and roll, South African festival stages. I'm a 6-string bass guitarist, so I really love to explore range and I love to explore harmonies and intervals. Other than that, I think I draw influence from what I cannot hear, so I try and identify the gaps and I sort of apply myself there where something is not happening quite yet. Bass players in South Africa that I believe are absolutely fantastic, and I've also drawn influence from them as individuals. Starting with Peter Sclair, I have to give it to Peter Sclair. Learned a real host of things from him. Carlo Mombelli's also been a gigantic figure in the bass world in general. I believe he's been mentioned here a couple times. And then some of my fellow TUT buddies, Sbu, Sibagnoni, Sipho Mabena, Shane Cooper, Benjamin Jafta. I'm sure I missed a whole host of people. Fana Zulu is obviously massively influential, especially in sort of innovating once again a little bit of an African style on the bass. Favorite song to play in my repertoire currently is a song called Flavor of Your Words. It's an AmaFranx song which I thought I should draw inspiration from Hans Zimmer's work. So I wanted to actually create as big a spectrum as you find in your film scores and things by purely playing the bass guitar, which is a lovely challenge. If we look at the trajectory of pop music, there's quite a lot of 80s influence that I'm picking up on. So I'm exploring both the forefront of what is coming out as popular music, and then I'm also delving into what happened in the 80s. I was born in 1990, so I wasn't there when all of that stuff was released. So I'm delving into all kinds of Journey and Tears for Fears. I am also actually quite infatuated with Celine Dion lately, which is totally off tangent from what I used to be into. Of course, I still listen to Victor Wood and Marcus Miller. There is a fantastic bass guitarist called Thomas Kennedy, and he plays with Dave Weckl a lot. So those kinds of things, then the 80s stuff, and then the sort of popular things of today. I think I just want it all, man. Just want it all. So I was fortunate enough to buy a thumb Warwick bolt-on from Etienne Harris on his Black Friday special. And Etienne, thank you very much. I really love that bass. It's a 6-string Warwick thumb, and I guess it's an acquired taste. Not everybody loves the Warwick sound, that very woody sort of, what's it? Peach van Pletzen calls it the diarrhea tone. I am technically a diarrhea specialist when it comes to bass tone. So I love round, dull, fuzzy kind of tones, but generally I plug the bass straight in. I actually don't really run through things much. Because I'm playing alone as AmaFranx, I've got my loop station. Yeah, I got a chorus pedal for soloing on top of the bass lines that I lay down on the loop station. So generally I kind of go in straight. I don't really play around much. I know there are some wonderful things that you've actually showed us, and I'm probably going to be watching this channel to find out what I want to explore next. I definitely have a dream bass. and I've played it once before. I believe a lot of these watchers might be familiar with Thomann in Germany. So I went there in Erlangen and I went to the old house, which was the original building for that shop. And in the very expensive Elite Instruments area, there was a Gary Granger signature Paul Reed Smith 5-string. That was the only drawback for me. I would have loved to have a 6 of that. At the time, it was about 9,000 euro. So I'm not sure when I'm going to be touring with a bass like that. But totally in terms of response and feel and tone, there's 2 Paul Reed Smith basses and I think that's one. As far as I know, please correct me in the comments below. But the PRS Gary Granger bass is just phenomenal. It's got a very nice finger plate as well, so if you do dig in with your thumb, you don't have to dig in all the way underneath the strings. It's kind of shallow, so you got a nice sort of thumb plate on it as well. And then it's got that typical Paul Reed Smith kind of look with the bird diving down the neck as inlays. It's just a beautiful thing.